It should be recorded to your
Oh,
cloud.
fantastic. That's it. Thank you.
So I'm definitely the recruiter, not the technical person. So you'll know that. There we go. When I actually first started working in technical recruitment, I couldn't even really turn computers on. So the fact that I went into tech was quite laughable. But since then, I've really enjoyed working in the tech industry. So it's my job to help people find the next step in their career. And what I wanted to speak to you about, and one of the, I guess this slide here is really important to me, because I wanted to speak to you about opportunities in tech in general. So obviously, initially, you guys are starting off your career within software engineering, which is awesome. But the opportunities within tech, there's so many different areas that you can go into. So starting in software development, whether longer term, things like testing, UI, UX, business analysis, which is actually my specialist area, my little baby, business analysis, project and program management, product ownership, scrum masters, agile coaches, PMO, tech sales, digital marketing, architect, service delivery, BI, data, AI, blockchain, Internet of Things, infrastructure, networking, information security, C-level roles, which hopefully is the future for all of you, which is really exciting. But there's just, I wanted to be able to discuss that there's a lot of opportunities. I think when people think of tech initially, you always initially thinking software engineering. So it's just important to be able to raise a profile on other roles within the industry and other things to look at. So how to pick the right employer? I think there was actually a question that Kirsty's sent across for this as well, about helping you pick the right company. And I think this is just so important that you get it right from the offset. So making sure that the first step for you, because this could like make or break your career, right? Making the first choice is really important. So from the offset, you need to have a great candidate experience. So make sure the employer is looking after you, the internal recruiter or the hiring manager, the process throughout that, keeping you really well informed about the opportunity in the company. Googling companies in Glassdoor, just always do it. Have a little look into their background of the employers. Find out how other people have worked there before have found it. I think it's actually, sorry, I've gone off that one. I think it's also, when we look at this, stage, it's really important to not go exclusively off Google and Glassdoor. So there's a fine line here. And it's one that I often tackle with is that people might say, oh, well, I've read really bad things about this employer on Glassdoor. It's a funny one. Reviews, like people normally write negative stuff and not always the positive stuff. I think take Google and Glassdoor with a pinch of salt, but I would always do my research on it. So for example, if I was interviewing with a company and I felt like it was going really well and I thought they were really great, but then I read some bad feedback on Glassdoor, I'd then probably be a bit more proactive in my approach and message a few people, connect with people that work there already on LinkedIn and say, oh, I've applied for a job at the company. I'd love to know your thoughts and how you find the business, etc., and how you've progressed and developed. People are always willing to have a chat. And I think that's one thing that I found in the tech industry, and I love more than anything, is that people are always willing to give you the time of day and have a chat with you. So please don't feel like you can't approach people at employers if you're interviewing with them, and get in touch with other people that work there to find out more about the company, because that will really lift the lid and help you make a really informed decision about the next step in your career. An inclusive hiring process is really important. Obviously, lots of you come from really mixed backgrounds and in terms of experience, and maybe not all graduates in terms of university. If employers look for specific things on the job description straight away, it would put me off initially. But then also I think apply for things that you don't have the specific skill set for, but you've got to take a risk. I think initially, I know this is something that we talk about a lot on my podcast, The Journey of a Woman in Tech, is females usually have to have at least 70% of the job spec right to apply for a job. But a lot of the candidates I place with businesses, sometimes they're only 40, 50% right, but they've got the right forward thinking attitude, etc. They're keen to learn. I think all of these things are so valuable that the job description, yes, it's a guide, but it's not a shopping list. You don't need to have everything to get offered a job. And so I definitely think making sure that you're applying for employers with an inclusive hiring process, but also take the job description with a pinch of salt. They're always normally a wish list. A lot of the way that I do recruitment, I have a job spec, but I don't actually use it as a tick list. I kind of just chat with managers and find out what they really want. And usually they only look for like 50% of what's on that shopping list rather than the full job description. So don't let that deter you. Network with the team. So as I mentioned before, definitely connect with people in LinkedIn, start building out a good profile on that, message people. Also find out, like, if there's a company that you're really passionate about, say for example, sustainability in tech, you really want to work with this company, and or they're doing something really interesting, or you're really into gaming and you want to work for these employers, don't be afraid just because there isn't a vacancy right now to register your interest, because you never know what response you might get. You might get a mentor out of it, you might get some work experience. Like, just get in touch with companies that you are really of interest to you and you're passionate about, because that makes such a difference as well. So getting involved in their events, you'll see a lot of this is normally like the bigger employers, but they do a lot of tech events. So like Skybet, for example, do a lot of tech events. You can start following companies fairly early, even if you're only just starting your career in tech, right? You literally just started the course. Think about companies that would be of interest to you. Start being a bit active on LinkedIn, follow people, connect with people, attend events, for example. They're all free. There's so much stuff you can get involved in. So please don't be afraid to get involved in their internal events. Ensure development potential. So I think it's really important when you're picking your employer that it's not just going to be a grad program example for 2 years and then there's no progression route after that. Have a little look at who else has started at a junior level and worked and developed their way up, so you've got something to aim for. I think it's really important, so other people are really progressing and developing within a business. And then checking staff retention rates, so you can do that quite easily on LinkedIn. By if you go on search an employer, look at who's employed, you can quickly work out how people are staying, etc. And that usually will kind of make you feel comfortable about a role or whether they're going to be the right employer for you. But ultimately, I think it's about making your own decision, but an informed decision. So I definitely, just some tips there which might help. So personal brand. So I work with many candidates, and from an employment perspective, it's usually I'm really sorry, can you hear Murphy downstairs, one of his squeaky toys? That's the puppy, so apologies if you can hear that squeaking away in the background. So personal branding is really important, and it's always easier to secure a role if you're building up a bit of a brand on things like LinkedIn, GitHub, attending these networking events, building up a community on Twitter, Clubhouse, which me and Kirsty are really into at the moment, networking and joining different communities, or looking for mentors. All of these things initially sound super daunting, but I like, trust me a little bit, if you went to a networking event or you just messaged someone about being a mentor, you kind of build it up in your head as these massive things, but people really do want to help. The tech community is really welcoming, so they will want to be able to help and share knowledge, and people love what they do, particularly actually in software engineering. So I think reaching out to people and asking them to help is only good things can come off the back of it. So don't be afraid for that. And if anyone wants any tips on that, you can always ask me, or if anyone wants a mentor or help with how to find one, I'm happy. I've got like over 15,000 connections on LinkedIn, so I'm always happy to put up messages about someone looking for a specific mentor or something like that. I was happy to share with my network. So yeah, if anyone's got any more questions about that, please do ask at the end. Top tech market trends. So I thought it was really important for me to kind of discuss from an employment perspective where I'm seeing some real pull and sway in the market. So for me, since COVID hit last year, the market has shifted quite a lot, and everyone is looking for software engineers. So you're certainly in the right place there. There's been a real pull, a real interest on PHP, which me and Kirsty were talking about earlier, actually. And I think it might be, I guess, the real push and focus on everyone going more e-commerce. So PHP, JavaScript, Node and React in particular. I know obviously you're covering that at the moment. That's really great and really high on demand. So I think anything if you can do around full stack is awesome. Python, if anyone's got any interest, I would actually say Python is the most required skill set for us at the moment, and I think it's a real big pull. I think obviously the data that everyone's looking for shoppers at home or businesses to know, for example, Python's really keen. Flutter and Golang have really become more popular for us over in Europe over the past 6 months. So I think it's only not long before we get more of a requirement for things like Flutter in the UK as well. So just things to keep an eye on, and if you can sort of pick up any skills in those areas. I think when you're looking for work from your perspective as well, I think quite often you might think that you need to be an expert in Python, but I think if you've got an interest and you've gone away and learned something, put it on your CV, and when it gets to interview stage, you can just explain that. So I think showing an interest in learning and developing in different languages is really important. So CV tips for really important. There's a lot of people applying for jobs at the moment. So ensuring that you get your personality across is really important. So yeah, making you become a person of interest, and putting your GitHub, your LinkedIn on there, for example. For me, straight away, if I get a CV with a LinkedIn profile, I'll just click straight through it, and all of my clients just want to see GitHub. So make sure you're populating that and building up a bit of a present. Adding about tech community input. And when you're starting out in your career in tech, it's quite often to think, oh God, what am I even going to put on my CV? But I think putting about sort of like, I've attended events, or I've got a real interest in getting involved in X, Y, and Z is just something really valuable to put on your CV. And it also shows that you're like, this is for you guys in particular as well, like taking time to do a course like this is so, you've really like gone out your comfort zone to apply for something different here. I think it's really important that you put that in your CV, and that you're really pushing because you're really passionate about getting into tech. You're making a commitment by making this move. So let's just shout about that. And also telling the reader your story. So I think quite often I'll speak to people and they'll be like, oh, well, I used to be a librarian. How much do I write about that on my CV? Now I'm looking to get into tech. And I think it's important to keep your focus on the tech aspect, but I think covering it and what you've done, the skills are always transferable. There's always things that are transferable. So I think making sure that you're kind of striking the balance right and telling your story about where you came from in your CV is really important, and what led you to where you are today. So the reasons why you've taken this step and why you want to get into tech is really cool. And that will then get across that passion about why you really want to move into tech. And don't stick to 2 pages. It's common. There's a bit of a myth really that you've got to keep it at least to 2 pages. Don't need to. If you've got something interesting to say, we'd rather see it. And hobbies is a funny one. A lot of people don't like putting hobbies on, but I think hobbies are the best way to find common ground with people in an interview. When I obviously interview and hire staff for transition partners, and for me, the first thing what I do is like look at hobbies and find common ground with people, and having things to discuss. So if someone is a keen traveller and they've been all over the world, then I'll often quite start the interview by putting them ease and talking about travel. So I think finding common interest is really important. So yeah, feel free to put some of those tips into action, and let me know if you need a hand with any of that. That's my enough for all my slides now. So has anyone got any questions for me? I think Kirsty's got some questions as well, haven't you, Kirsty?
I do indeed, yes.
I'm just going to close that door as well. Did you all hear the puppy squealing the whole way through? Did you hear it?
Ever so slightly.
Oh God, sorry guys.
Sorry, a little bit. Yeah, so I've got together a little document and asked people beforehand if they wanted to ask any questions. So I've got a few here.
Feel free to put them in the chat as well, guys. Like if you don't want to ask, feel free to just put them in the chat and we'll talk.
Yeah. So maybe in the meantime, whilst other people add questions, I'll just copy and paste them in. So the first question being best places to find good quality junior developer roles.
Wow, that is such a good question, isn't it? For me personally, it's LinkedIn. If I'm looking for vacancies, LinkedIn is the best place to start rather than job boards. I think a lot of the time people will go straight to LinkedIn because it's a free option as well, rather than advertise on the job boards. I think what you might not realize, every time someone uses a job board, they pay to post an advert. Most adverts are about £120 each, whereas like LinkedIn, you get free adverts. And also just LinkedIn in general, LinkedIn statuses. A lot of people just advertise the roles, smaller companies in particular, they'll just put a status update. So it's quite hard to track. So like what I'll quite often do is like hashtag job opportunities. You can obviously look on Twitter. More stuff's going on Twitter than ever as well, actually. So it's a really good place to look. But LinkedIn, I'll often just look on the hashtags and see if there's opportunities on there. So like graduate tech roles, for example, junior tech opportunities, just play around with a few things. Searches are really important actually, and like the wording of how you search things. Like sometimes like the whole developer or engineer, or some people might just put engineer throughout their advert and not developer, and if you're just searching for developer jobs, you might miss it. So I think by looking at different titles and way things are called, maybe try and do it a bit more like if you're really like hardcore job searching right now and you're in the depths of it and it's really tough, like try and take a really structured approach. So like every week I'm going to go on LinkedIn and I'm going to put in like hashtag Manchester, hashtag job opportunities, hashtag tech, and like really like search for it to make sure you're not missing any opportunities. But I think you can obviously change your LinkedIn to open to opportunities is a good way to do it, because then quite naturally the algorithm starts pulling up vacancies in your area. But yeah, I think by looking at LinkedIn's one that's probably quite like often people forget about it, but there's so many vacancies just go up there, and looking for hashtags is a really good way of like not missing opportunities, as well as your Monster, your Read, your Total Jobs, for example. But try and do a bit of a combination. I know it's really not easy looking for work, and that first opportunity is the toughest one. Once we crack this one, guys, I'm telling you, there is so much opportunity longer term. And I know everyone probably tells you that, and then right now, once you've done your course and you're thinking, oh god, it's actually not as easy as you think, once we get this first role ticked off, like the opportunities are endless. There's so much going on, so it's really buoyant market.
Sorry, we've got some questions in the chat that are kind of following on from that, which we get all the time, right? So have you got any advice for utilising LinkedIn whilst not alerting your current employer that you're making a change?
Yeah, that's really tough, isn't it? Because you can't change your... Actually, you can change your status to open to opportunities on LinkedIn, and they can't see it if they're your employer. You can only see it if you've got... obviously not when you change the icon to, is it looking for work or something? Everyone's probably seen it, that green thing you can put in your picture. Obviously not that, but you can change your status to open to opportunities, and only recruiters can see it. So there is a way that, unless they've got LinkedIn Recruiter, which is something that we've got, internal talent teams would have it, or other recruiters would have it. Your employer actually can't see it. So don't worry about that. Although it seems probably a bit scary, they can't see it. Just make sure you read it all properly, and you're not going to change the image to I'm looking for work, because obviously that wouldn't be the greatest idea. But yeah, I think that's a really good way to do it.
So a follow-on question from that is, obviously people want to build a brand, and you obviously encourage that actively. It's very hard to do that, isn't it? If you want to put that on your CV, you know, to say your full name, and this is my GitHub, and this is my Twitter. Have you had people that have applied for things that don't put their actual name on documents, or just to protect themselves, or anything like that?
We need the information. Unfortunately, it's the job that we work in. Everything's kind of really handled confidentially, so you do have to take a bit of a trust. And when you're, it is one of those things, isn't it, that is quite daunting. What do you mean by when you say around building the brand but keeping it confidential?
I mean,
because
like,
they're still employed, is that what you mean? Sorry.
Using a username. So for example, I had someone come to me, they didn't want to reveal their full name on Twitter because they might get found by their employer, so they use like I don't know, make up a username.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Yeah, I think that's definitely because like I could be Ellie in tech, right? I could be Ellie in tech. You don't have to put most people in tech on like Twitter and stuff like that, they don't use pictures. Even on LinkedIn, you don't need to put your face. You could do a cartoon, for example. And you could quite easily do that. Okay. But it is tough, isn't it? Like you say, if you want to build up a really good personal brand, there's sometimes some certain information that you would want to put. So yeah, I do agree. It's not easy. It's not ideal, but then I think you could probably, a lot of it depending on what you do as well. Your current employment, say you worked, I don't know, work for National Rail at the train station, chances are your boss probably doesn't spend much time on LinkedIn anyway. But the tech market, there's loads going on, so it's kind of like you don't want to miss on opportunities, but definitely change your status to open to opportunities, and they can't see it anyway. So yeah, that would be a really good one. But yeah, I think maybe look at other names that wouldn't exactly give you away, but you can start networking via that.
Okay, so the second question is, Sean said he actually got caught out by this recently, questioned by his manager. Oh, bad times.
Gosh. What did you end up doing in the end, Sean? It'd be interesting. Tell us in the chat how you ended up managing it, because that'll be really interesting, into how you got caught, so we can help others avoid it. I think it's really important.
Yeah, good point. Next question from Alan Brooks. I see quite a range in the visuals of tech CVs. Some are very colourful and making use of designs and graphics. Some are more traditional, top-down, text running through categories of key skills, qualifications, education, etc. Is bright and colourful more expected?
I think it is if you're going more like front-end UX roles. They kind of really want that like jazzy CV. But most CVs, but even then, like some front-end developers, it's just, I think it's an opportunity for you to showcase you and your personality, and you can put as much as you want into it or as little as you want into it as well. Some people keep it really professional. Some people put cover letters, for example. I personally, I'm not a fan of cover letters because I see that many CVs, I wouldn't have time to read it. And for me, the proof is in the CV. So I would rather my candidates tailor that, like say you wanted to get a job at booking.com, I would rather you put about your passion for booking.com in your CV for me and spend 5 minutes just changing your CV to make it really focused for that one client rather than writing a cover letter, because half the time the clients don't have time to read them. The problem is the level of people that are applying for vacancies. Sometimes we'll put adverts up in 24 hours with 200 advert response. So sifting and shortlisting through that is really tough. And we're transition partners. We're not even like Asda or someone like that who is a really big brand. They probably get so many applicants. So making sure that each CV is tailored for me is much more important than a covering letter. Don't bother. Spend your time on your CV. Get it right that way. I mean, sometimes I think like a good way to do it is apply for a job and then follow up. So you'll see on LinkedIn the picture of the person who's in charge of the vacancy, or you'll see the hiring manager. If it's a smaller business, they might be head of engineering, for example. Drop them a message and introduce yourself that way and just be like, I've seen this, I'm really interesting. My LinkedIn profile for Sean, for example, my LinkedIn profile is fairly low key because I'm still currently employed working at XYZ, but what I'm really passionate about is doing this and taking that approach to not sending out 100 applications, but maybe send 5 that day, and they're really good ones, and they're really going to catch an employer's attention. And you've taken the time to look into them and research the business, find them. They'll be so much more impressed by that. And also a really good way to do it is like you can follow up with like voice notes, or you could do a video. Like it's so easy. I think we kind of forget that on LinkedIn, you can record a 2-minute video like, hi, I'm Ellie, I really want to work for you. This is why I love the brand. If it's something you really love and you really want that job, why wouldn't you spend 2 minutes doing that? And you can just attach the video on LinkedIn. It's so super easy. So like just like pushing yourself a little bit. I mean, it's not for everyone. Obviously, I'm a huge extrovert, so it's easy for me to say things like this, but you like pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and doing a tailored approach for you, then that's really important. And really cool, like you got to think these hiring managers are seeing so many CVs, so being a person of interest and your approach being different is really important. So yeah, try different ways to are going to express the best version of you is really important.
Really good advice. That I've never heard anyone to encourage you to do voice notes or videos to
my job is trying to get hold of people all day who don't want to get hold of me, who don't want to speak to me. So it's very like I'm basically like when you're trying to get hold of the hiring manager and they don't want to speak to you, I'm trying to get hold of the hiring manager as well, because I'm trying to recruit their senior developers. So I'm used to trying to get a hold of people all the time, and you've got to change your approach up. You can't just send a really standard boring message to someone. Like they already get so many messages. Like we've really got to pick it up and make it about you and your personality, your style, get it all across in the message, because you only get one shot. You usually get one shot applying, and then once you've applied, your name is in that pile of like, no, they can't apply for 6 months. That's the kind of thing that happens, unfortunately, because that's what usually happens with the system. Once you've applied, if they said no, that's it for 6 months, sometimes 12 months, depending on the employer.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Ellie. That was really good. So another question from Martin. Is it worth going for roles and languages which you do not have experience in?
Yes, if you have an interest in them. Like, say you were like halfway through your course right now and you started reading up about something else and you think, actually sounds so cool. But then you message a manager and be like, I haven't done Python. I've just started doing Manchester codes. This is what I've done so far. I'm personally going to take some time out to learn Python next month. Would you have a chat with me about what sort of people you're looking for this new graduate role you've got, or this junior position you've got? Because I'd love to be considered. Well, then, like, yeah, they'd be stupid not to have a chat with you. But like, also the people would be happy to share the knowledge. So I was telling actually Kirsty earlier, one of my staff, I lost one of my best recruiters this year because she wanted to become a developer. And although it was heartbreaking because she's so bloody good, she did what she wants to do. She wanted to become a software engineer, and the way that I helped her get mentors and stuff like that. Really, I had different languages. So she had a mentor in Python. She was speaking to someone about C#, like different mentors to help her, because people are always willing to help, and they'd always be like, I'll keep an eye out for opportunities for you as well. I'll send you jobs if I see any, or anyone in my network. And then they'll also do a post like, I'm currently mentoring a software engineer who lives in Manchester. They're looking for a role. They're really passionate about working in green tech or in vet tech or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? Then before you know it, it does get traction, and you only need one right person to see your post or see their post to offer you a job. People always try and help people that are like know people in the network first. They'll always try and help each other out. So I think it's important. The networking side of it is really important.
All right, Ali, so the next question is, I keep hearing tons of graduate roles are coming once COVID restrictions are lifted due to onboarding issues of juniors, etc.
Yeah.
True or false from a recruitment perspective?
True. Sadly, it's so true. So true. It's really tough. I think some companies are still moving. I'm not saying it's all true. There is jobs out there, guys, at the moment. There are graduates. I know a employer that are taking on a graduates. I said I've told Kirsty about one, so she can share it with you in March. And they're planning on doing it remotely. A lot of the big employers will continue. Smaller people are scared, because you've got to think sometimes these startups, they're not as well equipped. They haven't got big HR teams. They haven't got L&D managers. They haven't got all this support to be able to help people on board remotely. Me, for example, like, we're a small business, and taking on people right now without recruitment experience would be really hard work, like, to spend the time to train and develop people, but also it's not really fair for them, because I wouldn't want to set them up for failure. So smaller businesses will unfortunately just say, right, until we're back in the office, it's probably not a good idea. But hopefully things are looking positive with the vaccine, and this will be sooner rather than later. There are still opportunities, just not as many as there should be. And that's just, unfortunately, that's the case at the moment. But we are lucky. Software engineering, if you're going to go into one industry where you're going to be set for life, guys, once we get this one job, this is it. Like, honestly, there's so much opportunity out there in tech. It's ridiculous. For every one good candidate, there's like I think once you've got like even like a year's worth of experience, there's like 6 vacancies for one good candidate. So I think that's the first one's going to be the challenge, but once you've got that, you're going to be pestered by people like me for the rest of your lives. So enjoy the break while you've got it.
That's a nice way to look at it. This is a break. So the next question from Anna is, do recruiters and employers tend to look at portfolio websites? Have you noticed having a good one being the difference between getting a job and not?
Yeah, we do. We do always look at websites. And employers will always ask me for GitHub. So yeah, I definitely think spending a bit of time is well worth it, 100%, because that's an opportunity to showcase your work. And when you're hidden in the background and you're just another number or another person applying for a job, imagine that if you had 50 CVs to get through. Like, before you know it, they get all a bit mundane, they get all a bit samey, but you look at a profile and you're like, whoa, that's so cool, that's such a great website. You can't straight away, you're going to want to speak to that person and find out about the projects that they've done. So yeah, 100% make sure it's on there. Any work that you've got to showcase, put it on there. It's a good thing. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then Sean just gives us an update on what happened with his manager.
Tell us what happened.
Right. Unless you want to come off mute, Sean, and tell us how it went.
No, he's saving.
Hello.
Yeah, here he is.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's just I was just blatantly honest. I got caught, but I wasn't hiding it. I just didn't tell them. So yeah, I had a call the one morning saying, your LinkedIn profile says this, and I was like, yes. And it just says actively looking for roles, which I was told to do from MCR codes, obviously.
What do you do at the moment, Sean?
I'm in insurance, so I'm very busy at the moment dealing with claims for COVID related issues. But yeah, it's very, very busy at the moment. So but it's
insurance firm. Was it a small one?
Say that again, sorry.
For a big insurance company?
Fairly.
Have you spoken to them about their tech opportunities?
Yeah,
because it's one thing that quite often like people don't do, but actually is a really good place to start, is try and get a mentor internally in tech.
they did mention that, but they were based in Illinois, so not that close. So I said maybe a little trip over, but no, I'd already looked to see, because it's always easy to move within the company that you're in if you've got that intention and you know you want to do that. But I did look at that, and it wasn't obviously something that was, well, moving to America wasn't an option, to be fair. So yet, but yeah,
internally though from the tech leaders, because I think that would be a really good thing. Like, just like you say, it's always best to ask about opportunities within a business first, but even if you can't, you could just get in touch with them and say, ultimately I am looking to go into tech at some point, just being honest, right? This insurance isn't going to be I'm happy doing the job, I'm doing a good job for you right now, but longer term it depends on your job, doesn't it, and how stable you are. But like you say, you're super busy at work, so they're not going to get rid of you.
No.
You're just being honest. I think if my staff, sometimes I think if they were more honest, like when Greta came to me and said, I want to be a developer, I'm not going to say, well, we're going to sack you right now. I was like, that's great, let's find you a mentor and do it properly, because I loved it. I was gutted to see her leave, but if you've got the right boss that's happy to do that, then I think it's a good idea to just ask people, and they're normally willing to help when and wherever. Well, thank God they were okay about it. That's the main thing.
I don't know if they're okay. I don't think they've got a choice at the moment.
Well, if you need a hand, just give me a shout anyway.
Yeah. Thanks.
You've got to make it happen now, Sean. You've put the gauntlet down, so you've got to make it happen.
That's a commitment choice, isn't it? I think that's a proper commitment to yourself, that you've got to make it work, haven't you? So
I'm on a mission now. I had a little break because of how busy I was last year, but I'm on a mission now. So yeah.
I think so. I think that's like you've set yourself it's probably going to give you an extra push now that you need to get it sorted sooner rather than later.
That's it. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Right, I'll try and move through because we have to stop the chat in 10 minutes. No, it's fine. It's really interesting, Sean. Thank you so much. So Robin's posed a really good question, which is it good practice to apply for all junior positions just so you get used to the process, even though you're not interested in the company? Do you just apply for everything?
Me personally, I'd apply for stuff. But then also, you would be surprised a company that you don't think you're interested in, actually, if you spoke to them. Because sometimes like you think something might sound a bit boring or like just not really of interest. But I mean, just being honest, I've done that with clients before where I've been like, yeah, they sound all right, but I'm really interested in something else in tech. But then as soon as you speak to them, you're like in love with the hiring manager and the projects that they've got on, and you just, before you know it, you're really brought into it. So I definitely would speak to people, be open, because you just don't know that hiring manager might be way better than the hiring manager at Google or Amazon. Do you know what I mean? It kind of, it's people make the difference in a job, not really I know it's nice to be working on a product that you're really passionate about. I agree with that, but ultimately, what's the worst thing that's going to come out of having a chat with someone about a job opportunity? You're either going to learn how to be a better interviewee, right? You're going to learn that skill. You're going to do a bit of networking, and you're going to find out more knowledge about something that you're only just moving into. So 100% I'd apply for jobs that you're not really that interested in, because something good might come out of it. You'd be surprised the amount of people that I speak to, and they say they're not looking for work when they first start speaking to me, and by the end of it, they've got a new job in 6 weeks. So I think you just like be open, don't judge a book by a cover, chat to people and see what comes out at the end of it, but definitely give it a go. Yeah.
Elliot, I've just got a quick question to slide in here, right, whilst we're kind of on this subject. So obviously, students that are at Manchester Codes, it's part-time, it's a 6-month course. At what point do you think it's the most attractive to hire a student? Is it whilst they're still on the course and really active, they're studying, they're applying for jobs, or is it after they've finished?
Yeah, I think if you start too early, I'd start, if it was me personally and I had the knowledge I have now, I'd start building a brand as soon as you can. Start like adding people, connecting with people, looking at like thinking about you're making a really conscious effort, right? You're spending your nights and weekends at the minute, guys, to do all this hard work, which takes so much commitment. So well done to you, because I don't think I could do it. So I think it's really important that you've got to keep that goal. Like there's a reason you're doing what you're doing right now. So keep that focus on the opportunities at the end of the line, but probably not until you're like 3-4 months through the course, so you've actually got some real knowledge, and you've got an idea, and you've got more of a plan. Because if you do it too early, and quite often someone might get in touch with me and be like, I'm looking for a job in the summer, and it's like, great, but my clients need people right now. So it's kind of like you're better off just waiting a little bit until you've got some more experience and we're nearer. But yeah, 2 months before the end of your course, crack on with it. 3 months, I'd definitely say that's probably the right time to start applying things and start speaking to people, and having these conversations and putting out feelers in the market. Does that sound what you normally suggest? What you normally suggest?
I mean, like I said, I think people should start building a brand from the day one, from when they join us, and then it's 6-month runway. And then, yeah, once I think people see the end is near, it's then about 2 months before trying to get some applications in. But yeah, it's just.
Yeah, I think have a little look at, sometimes it's easy for us to sit here like me and Kirsty and say,
Yeah.
build a brand, and you're like, I don't know how to start. What does this even mean? Have a little look at some of the people that we interview on our podcast. There's some, like really cool, some of them are tech leaders of some of the ones, but the Journey of a Woman in Tech, they're usually like quite well-known people in the tech community. They're good people to start following and just seeing like what these guys are up to. And definitely all connect with me after the call, and then you'll keep an eye on. I quite often like share people in my networks things, and they're usually quite well-known people in tech. So then at least you can start getting an idea of what you want to, like, who you want to emulate, like what you want to be like, and what you want to present to the market is a good idea. Because this whole build a brand, that doesn't mean anything until you start looking and getting ideas of what you want your brand to be. But yeah, definitely have a little look at people in the market at the moment.
Yeah, and it's super easy as saying this, most people have a full-time commitment or other commitments. It's so much time, so I completely get that, but it is better to start earlier.
Definitely, like the event stuff as well is one space that I don't think is used enough. Like the event stuff, there's so much going on. Once you start looking into it, like all the different variant groups that you can join, and Slack communities, for example, there's loads going on. So you've just got to start looking, and if you need help looking in the right place, just get in touch.
Okay, I'm going to try and swiftly move on to the next question from Sean, which is, hi again. Do you think when we come out of the current lockdown restrictions, this will make a difference to more job opportunities?
Yeah.
Currently, I'm seeing over 100 applicants for some roles on LinkedIn, which is daunting to think you're against 100 people.
Don't let that put you off, though, because sometimes a lot of the people aren't right in the slightest, and you might be the best candidate that applies for a job. So definitely don't let that put you off applying for jobs. Just if you feel like it's right, give it your best shot, because you just don't know. You don't know. And you don't know, like the person that opens the email that you've applied for, one day they might just like see something in your CV and it's really right, or they think it's right for the culture, or you just be really surprised. Don't let a high number of people apply for a job put you off at all.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, even I was recruiting for like new instructors recently, and the number of CVs that just were not appropriate. Just people just spam, just apply for everything on LinkedIn.
The amount of time I've got a Python developer role that's like £650 a day or something like that, and I get a bus driver or something of Python. They've never done any Python in their life, and it's like you get really random people just apply for jobs because they see the salaries as well. So I think being open, but as long as you're tailoring it for the role, your experience, that's the main thing. Have a gamble to apply for stuff sometimes when it's a little bit out of your reach, but yeah, you need to have some technical skills, particularly for £650 a day.
A bus driver. Okay, so the next question is for I guess this is a comment from Alan. It's a challenge that I can't make my LinkedIn relevant to tech without it being quite clear to my current employer that I'm looking to change. Opening myself to opportunities tends to see offers from my current field.
Yeah,
I guess that's with keywords, right, on LinkedIn. So you're probably getting presented certain opportunities.
Yeah, that is a real tough one. I guess it depends where you are at, Alan, on your course, and the risk. Because like you say, if you start putting loads of tech stuff, Manchester Coast course on your LinkedIn, and then your employer will find out that's what you're doing. But maybe if you're 6 months in and you're like, right, I'm really prepared to take the gamble now, it's going to start. Maybe just start by holding it off LinkedIn and start with Twitter and applying for jobs that way. You could still connect with like hiring managers and send them video messages, like I said, like, hi, I'm Alan. I know my LinkedIn profile doesn't look right, but what you don't know is this. I've been doing this in my spare time, and I really want to speak to you about the junior developer role you've got at the moment. You would be surprised, I think, if you had it that angle, people completely understand.
So Ellie, let me throw this back at you. I know that Alan's not a big fan of Twitter. So do you think it's just more of a direct approach? So identifying a hiring manager and reaching out to them is the way forward for Alan?
I have to do it because if I'm looking for jobs, so obviously as a recruiter, I look for jobs and I look for candidates and I bring them together. If I need more jobs, I've got a team of 16 staff. If they need more jobs to work, I have to go and find them. So I do that via Twitter. I'll see that Joe Blogs from whichever company has put a tweet up that they're looking for these staff. I'll DM them on Twitter and I'll just say, I've seen this and this is why I want to work for you. This is what we're transition partners. We do this and this, which is going to help you with that. So I think you've just got to do the same as what I do and being proactive. Yeah, you can't do enough of it when you're looking for work.
Oh, amazing. Next question, we've got 4 minutes. I've read numerous articles about the skills gaps in tech roles, in particular software development roles, but when you hear 200 people applying for jobs, that suggests the opposite. Is this just due to the current conditions? Basically, is the market saturated? Have we got too many juniors for the amount of junior positions?
No, we don't. No, we don't. We definitely don't. Also, as well, sometimes you'll realise that we get quite a lot of applicants that from abroad with not the right working visa. So that's one thing that often quite drives the number of adverts up. But sometimes that people will apply, but they haven't got rights to work in the UK. So you would be surprised sometimes that maybe like 10-20% of applicants might not be able to work. They might just apply for stuff. It's tough right now. Like we say, there's just not enough junior roles for the amount of people right now. But when things start moving again, there will be. Just you've got to make yourself stand out. Unfortunately, now more than ever. So that's what we're here for, to try and help you and present the best version of yourself to market to find the best opportunity for you. So, yeah, it's tough, but there's definitely opportunities. We need more devs more than ever. So. But it's just getting that first job. Once that first job, you get some experience and that's it, we're away. You're never going to be looking for work ever again because you have people like me pestering you every day. So
every day.
Every day.
So the other question is from Anna, how do you find mentors?
So yeah, it's just do you know what I just do? If I just see someone that I really like speaking, public speaking or an event, and I'll message them and say, Joy, you're really cool. I think what you said about this and this really resonated with me. I'd like you to, would you be open to discussing like a mentorship relationship? It sounds like a really weird thing, but it's really easy. So I think just asking people the question, you'd be surprised. Get in touch with people, do a post on LinkedIn, tag me in it. I'm happy to share it with my network. If you're looking for, I'm looking for a mentor with specifically some really strong experience in Node. Yeah, I'll share it with my network and see. But start attending events. Let's start with that because I think that's a really good place. And then you listen, like, what about the speakers? Or someone might ask a really cool question in the chat. And you do a little LinkedIn stalk on them and be like, actually, they're really cool. I want to speak with them. And just ask people. You would be right now. Everyone's at home, so everyone's happy to take time to speak to someone different, aren't we? We're all sick of the 4 walls we're in. So I think yeah, it's a good time for that. It's a good time to network. People are lonely, so.
Okay, let's try and squeeze some more in. I hope you're all right with this. Okay, so Alan Brooks, again, with some great questions. Any recommendations of portfolio websites we could look at to see what good might look like?
So you can on GitHub look at other people's profiles of what might, yeah. So I think that's a really good place to start. So start looking at other people in the market, but being able to just, I think like using, like you can send stuff to me and I'll have a look at it. I'm happy to give you feedback on what I think on your profiles. But yeah, I think it's hard to say. I think of like how you could gain access. You probably can gain access if you just start Googling things. There's probably some data that you can get hold of. But I think, yeah, just looking at other people's profiles and how they're presenting themselves to market. Look at who, like you could find a graduate that joined booking.com and then find their GitHub account. You can do that. So then you could be like, oh, they write this company, I want to connect with you. You can do things like that. So I think it's just spending a bit more time to really look into it. Oh, Anna's just said something about making portfolios.
Oh yeah, I think it's just about doing a bit of research, isn't it? And just being a bit ballsy and asking people up front. Oh, I really admire your work. Would love to see your GitHub. Would love to, just being a bit more direct.
I think someone actually just messaged as well. I saw something come up about like email. Yeah, like people. It's funny, isn't it? Like for me personally, I get a lot of emails. I'm better if someone messaged me on LinkedIn because I know that you can see when I've seen it. You know, like WhatsApp. If someone texts me, I can ignore you. But if you WhatsApp me, I know that you know that I've seen it. And then I'm like, oh my God, I've got to go back to them. So for me personally, I would always WhatsApp people or LinkedIn rather than email. But people, more traditional businesses, they love an email. So I think either works. Just maybe try all forms and see what works best for you.
Okay, we'll push it to the wire until we get kicked out. Okay, so if we get kicked out, we get kicked out. I know everyone's got class. I think there's one last question that I just can't see. Okay, Robin, is it worth updating your CV with jobs if they're not relevant to tech, or should you leave it and then fluff it up with projects and hobbies? So if you've come from a completely different industry, you're a chef and you're
as much
moving
projects
into the
and hobbies as you can, because the project piece to me, it's like, do you know what, Robin's really done this and this, and you can, and he's, but then also if I can see and I'm like, do you know what, he's worked full time as a chef, like that's such a tough job, and he's done this at the same time, then that to me is really like admirable. So I think kind of like a mix. I would put what you've done because I think it's interesting. I want to know about who you are. That's why I'm reading your CV. But also, but then more about the projects piece, what you've been doing, why you're interested in tech. Like I think all of you should have a story. You're not just someone that's like gone out of school, you've never had a job, you've then fallen into university, but done a computer science degree, you've come out with no experience. You've all got your own stories and your all journeys, which are all different journeys, which is really unique. So I think by putting that into your CV is really important in telling your story.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And so can we squeeze one last question, final question? We haven't even looked at the other spreadsheet of questions, but it's been good just to get fresh questions in.
I don't mind if you want to do another one of these, and I'm happy to come on and have a chat.
All right, thanks, Ellie. So last question, in a CV or application, how in depth do you go into the languages and technologies you're familiar with? Is it more important to show a willingness to learn and expand your skill set, or demonstrate what you've learned so far?
I put it all in, even if you're just wanting to learn it. For me personally, I'd put it all in where I can. So I'd start off with, so the kind of rule of thumb is when you're writing your tech stack, you start off with your strongest, and then you move out to things that you just touched on. But then you can also, when you interview people, you just say, actually, I've only learned this. I've done probably like 12 hours worth of work on it, but I really liked it because of X, Y, Z. I found it really easy, or I picked it up pretty quick. I definitely put things on your CV. Because sometimes you get silly people, like silly recruiters, that are like, oh, well, the client only wants someone who's done CSS, and you don't have CSS in your CV, and everyone's like, well, anyone can pick up CSS, so it's fine. So I think just put it in, even if you haven't got a huge amount of exposure, because you don't want to be discounted for something if you can probably do it. Just don't call yourself a CSS expert.
Okay. Oh, well, thank you so much for that, Ellie. Like, it's been really informative. It's been really good. I think you've gone into so much detail. And I really appreciate you spending the time with us tonight. So how do we get in touch with you? How do we connect with you?
LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn and start getting involved in some of the stuff we're posting, and start coming to our events. And there's loads of stuff going on. We've actually got one, I think it's next week. We've got an event. All our stuff's on YouTube, so there's countless stuff that you can access on YouTube. Podcasts are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, etc. But you can also go back to the previous content that we've done if there's something really of interest. But also, like, we've got events coming up. We've got one next week called What the Tech Is Next, and that's interestingly about employers. We've got some really cool C-level employers talking about challenges in the market culture. So if you come on and you say, I'm a graduate and I want to get into tech and I'm finding it really tough looking for a job right now, what tips have you got? Are you still hiring? Like, put these people under pressure. They're paid a lot of money and they should be helping the next generation of tech people. So I think by engaging with the community is a really good way of doing that. But get involved in as much stuff of ours as you like, and feel free to drop me a message if anyone's got any questions or needs any advice. I'm happy to help.
Okay, cool. And Ellie, have you got any spaces for a graduate to be on a panel? anytime soon.
I'm a grad for a panel. I'm doing something which I'm coordinating for International Women's Day that I was going to speak to you about. So I haven't got it fully ticked off because it's not till March the 8th, but there could be something there we can definitely get involved in for sure. Yeah, that would be really cool actually. I'd love that.
Because I think it'd be good, you know, like it's great to have C-level people, but maybe it could be good to get some perspectives from someone that's actually joining the industry and maybe their fears and building their own personal brand. Oh, we're getting kicked out. Guys, we're gonna have to wrap this up because we are gonna get kicked out. But thank you so much for this. And
lovely to see you all, and hopefully I'll be able to get you jobs in the future. Anyway, so
fingers crossed.
Yeah, I'm sure I will.
Thank you both. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Kirsty.